So raising the professionalism really is taking the inside sales profession and lifting it up.
Hello Sales Nation and welcome to the Salesman Podcast live in partnership with HubSpot and recorded at the Leadership Summit in beautiful Chicago. On this episode we have Bob Perkins. He is the founder of the AA-ISP, the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, who put on the event. And on this episode we're diving into what the association can do for you and a whole bunch more as well. If you want to find out more about Bob, if you want to find out more about everything else that we talk about in this podcast, you can go to AA-ISP.com. Everything else we talk about is available in the show notes of this episode over at salesmanpodcast.com. And with all that said, let's jump into today's show.
Bob, welcome to the Salesman Podcast.
Hey, it's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you on. One, thank you for having us here. That's the most important thing. And two, I'm interested to find out. I didn't know much about the AA-ISP until a few weeks ago when we started going back and forth. So I think this will be useful for both me to learn more about it and for the audience as well, because I know we've got a lot of inside sales professionals in our audience. So the place to start, as always, is the start. Tell us what the AA-ISP stands for, what it is, and how you're helping inside sales professionals.
Yeah, you bet. So we're the Global Inside Sales Association. Really, AA stands for American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. And our association really is dedicated to the advancement of the inside sales profession, whether you're business development, whether you're a quota-carrying sales rep, account manager, sales executive. Our motto is to help take inside sales, whether it's an individual, a leader, or a team, help take them to the next level of professionalism and performance.
What does that mean? That word specifically, what does that professionalism mean?
Yeah, good question. You know, professional really means we're a profession, right? And if you look at our history, we were at times playing second fiddle to the field reps, right? In many cases, they deployed inside sales to support the field. Times have changed dramatically. Now we're a very powerful, much needed, utilized by companies of all sizes, and we've really come into our own in the last few years. So raising the professionalism really is taking the inside sales profession and lifting it up, right? Making it a great profession, one that salespeople can be proud of, right? One that treats the inside salespeople as, you know, high-end professionals that are important, have a huge job to do. When you think about it, nothing happens unless you get an order, unless you sell something. And inside salespeople can do that more and more, and they're doing it better and at a more professional level.
So I wrote the word down, proud, just before you said it then. So clearly we're on the same wavelength of this. Should we be, this sounds like a daft question to even ask at an event like this, but should we be proud to be both sales professionals and inside sales professionals? Is that something we should be like overtly and proactively saying?
Oh, absolutely. The answer is yes. Sales, if you think about it, sales is the world's oldest profession, really. We won't go into the details on that, but, you know, selling all too often, though, kind of has taken a bad rap in many ways. You think of the dishonest salesperson or the salesperson that's just trying to talk someone into buying something. Maybe they don't need it even. But the selling that really we stand for, the values we stand for at the AA-ISP is first and foremost ethics, high ethics, honesty, of course. In fact, we actually have in our CISP training program, we actually have a type of an oath that the sales professional agrees to, that they always ask permission to continue a conversation with a person. They don't push themselves on a prospect, that they have high standards. They hold themselves to high integrity and high standards, and that they're really there to help discover needs and really help add value to a customer. So we need to hold those standards high. And I think when we do that, we can be very proud of what we do. Sales can be a lucrative, financially lucrative profession. And I think it does the profession good, whether you're in the field or inside, doesn't matter, to be proud of that profession and to hold it as one of the most important jobs somebody can do. I mean, they're making money for the company, they're making money for the economy, and they're making money for themselves and their family.
For sure. I'm sure there's many cliches that we could both throw at each other of, nothing kind of moves forward within industry, the economics of it, in businesses, in wherever, if someone isn't sold on an idea or a concept. So that clearly, that tells me that if there's cliches about it, then there must be something to it at least.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that, yeah.
So let me ask you this. So one of the missions I have with the podcast is to, I don't know whether we can ever reverse it, but perhaps negate it, perhaps change it. But I don't know if we'll ever completely squash it, but this negative stereotype.
Yeah.
And clearly, inside sales, you're almost removed away from the world of the used car salesperson. And we're talking, and my audience is mainly B2B. So again, you're kind of one step removed from that weird manipulative dude or girl trying to just close the deal, and they don't care about refunds, buyer's remorse, regret, or anything like that. Do you think, because I've mused on this with other guests in the past, do you think that we need to be proactive, have oaths, consciously be raising our ethics? Or do you think that the market will just engineer that out of it? As buyers have more control of the sales cycle, more control of information, do you think that the weirdness will just eventually be pushed out?
Well, that's a great question. I think we could do a little bit of both of those. But let me take a different angle on this.
Sure.
We're here at the Leadership Summit in Chicago. We had 4 college professors that attended today. The college professors teach selling and business at some major universities. We're beginning to change the perception of selling. If you think about it, years ago, somebody went to college and got a history major. My son got a history major. What's he doing today? He's selling, right? And so I applaud these universities who are training tomorrow's sales professionals, and they're letting these young people know that selling can be a great profession. So they're instilling upon them pride, really, and the desire to go out and maybe pursue sales as a very noble profession, right? So I think we're going to change that stereotype. I think we're going to change that perception a little bit by, one, educating people, right? Mm-hmm. Starting right in the colleges, universities. But you mentioned it too, is I think we can. It's how we handle ourselves, how we talk about it. If you have pride in the job you have, I think it's gonna show.
Yeah, I interviewed Howard earlier on, and he blew my mind with something that I'd never even thought about before. So clearly, going to university, if you want to get into sales and doing a degree, a master's, whatever it is in sales, makes total sense.
Yeah.
I think prior to, and I think this is way more developed in the US than it is in the UK.
Sure.
But prior to that, you do business studies, you do an MBA, you do something along those lines that perhaps isn't as applicable. But what Howard blew my mind with, and I've never thought about this before, and I was grinning as we were going through it, was I've done a degree in chemistry.
Okay.
My first job was in chemical sales.
Yeah.
Howard pitched to me of, well, maybe you do your degree in chemistry, but you do a bunch of modules in sales.
Yeah.
So then you are trained up to go into that industry. You've got the specific knowledge, and so you're going to jump in and not be a junior salesperson. The terms, the wording might differ.
Right.
But you've already got that step ahead. Someone who doesn't have that experience.
Right.
And that I see that as potentially the future of all of this. When we legitimize that sales is a skill that is both useful in business, it's useful just to communicate, because sales is just communication, isn't it? It's when you drill it down.
It is, and we heard this even today at some of the sessions. Decision makers, people that buy things, they're more educated on what they're buying. So by the time they reach out and connect with a salesperson, they may be well educated. They need that salesperson. You mentioned chemistry. If you're an expert as a chemist, but you happen to be representing a product and selling it, if a prospect gets to you, you're going to have a lot of knowledge on chemistry itself. You're going to be a credible, value-added consultant to that prospect, and they're going to gain knowledge from you. They're going to have respect in you. They're going to trust you because you're helping them further educate on what they might need to solve a problem.
Yeah, I mean, to just drill down into that example, so I was selling chemical catalyst into the pharmaceutical industry. The ROI, super easy to calculate. Of this is going to save you this amount of product, this amount of reagent. It's going to save you this much time, and clearly they're doing massive batches of these super expensive chemical compounds. And so it was a very easy conversation for me to come in and say, hey, let me look at your chemistry, do the formula.
Yeah.
You're speaking to, so I'm a huge nerd, but you're also speaking to a huge nerd who understands all this.
Yeah.
And then all that I had to do, which I had to learn and had to be trained on, was put them through the process and the steps of the sales. And it was as simple as that. There was no manipulation. There was no weirdness. There was not really any influence, because I'd only ever worked for like the best company in the industry and the biggest company in the industry. So they wanted to buy. It was, again, this cliche of like facilitating the buyer and allowing them to buy from us versus the stereotype of the used car salesperson, which is shoving your pitch down someone's throat.
Right. Kind of push it on somebody.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, nobody likes that. Nobody wants to be sold to that way. You know, here's another thing. I mean, we talk about stereotypes, perception a little bit. Even in inside sales, I mean, think about the annoying telemarketer, right? That interrupts your dinner at 6:30 p.m. They go right into a script about themselves. What have they not done? They've not understood the prospect. Seek to understand before trying to be understood. I want to understand you, your goals, your needs, about you, before I even go anywhere near what I have to sell.
Well, you don't know if it's the right fit.
Well,
it's as simple as that, isn't it?
That as well. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, I've got one question to ask everyone that comes on the show.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up with this, and you can tell us a little bit more about the AA-ISP after that point. But I've asked it to 300 plus people now, and almost every answer's been different. So I'm excited to hear your response.
Good.
If you could go back in time and speak to your younger self, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give him to help him become better at selling?
Know thy buyer. Know thy buyer. It's a phrase I actually learned from a woman named Jill Rowley. She says, know thy buyer, but to know thy buyer, I got to listen. I got to, observe. I have to care about my buyer. Not just if they have a need for my product, but honestly care about them. And in caring about someone, you're going to add value, whether you're going to get anything in return.
Sure.
What Jill says is like making deposits. Make deposits in that person. At some point, you're going to be able to take out some money from the bank. So,
love it. I love it. And I'm just going to wrap up with this.
Yeah.
When did you discover that? Was this a gradual process, and it's just experience that you found out when you give that little bit more, you got more back over the long run, or was there a defining moment of that? Because I think this is something that it's a change that's happening across sales, and your thoughts and insights.
Well, look,
are powerful.
early in my career, I thought selling was as much of a tactic as it was being genuine and being transparent. Now I realize true good selling is being genuine, transparent, caring, being open and honest, right? Because if I'm transparent, open, and honest, and I truly care about you, we may find something in common. And when we do, you're going to trust that I can help provide something to help you. You're going to trust me. But early in my career, it took me a while. I thought it was, the things you say, how you say them, asking for the sale, how do you close, right? How do you, do those type of things. And it doesn't happen overnight. and we're hiring so many people that have so little experience because we have to. There's so many job openings.
Yeah.
And one time somebody said to me, you really got miles on you. And they meant it takes experience. It takes miles to develop, who you are, how you sell to people. It's just not something you read a book and turn it on. It just can't happen. You need some miles.
I love it. I love this idea, and you brought it up then, of trust. I think it was Jim Cathcart. He's been on the show a bunch of times. He said something along the line, we're going to butcher this, and he'll moan at me for it. But he said something along the lines of, and it really sunk with me, like business moves at the speed of trust.
Yeah.
And I think that sums up how sales are changing, developing, moving. And with that, Bob, tell us a little bit about the AA-ISP. Who is it for?
Yeah.
What do you do for those individuals? Because there's so much content and everything else that you do as well, and these events. And how can we get involved with it?
Well, look, the AA-ISP is here's how it was formed. I was a director, a vice president of inside sales. I desperately wanted to help my team improve, but I didn't know very much, and I looked for resources. We didn't have any. I began building my own small network of people. We'd get together at the round table, share best practices, what's working, what kind of models do you have, compensation. And I knew way back then we needed something. We formed this to be a resource to help, so the profession of inside sales, whether you're a rep, a leader, vice president, whatever, you had a place to go with other passionate, like-minded people where you could learn from them, share your own ideas and best practices, and it's been an amazing journey. It's for anyone involved in inside sales, whether you're quota carrying, SDR, get involved. You don't even have to come to a conference. Just get out to a local chapter meeting.
Yeah.
You're in UK, we got a chapter in UK. You're in Ireland, we got one there. We got one in Chicago right here. We have 70 chapters around the world. Get out to a chapter, see what it's like to be around someone who has the same challenges as you, who cares as much about you do about improving yourself if you're a leader or improving your team. And that's how you get involved, right? Just get out to a chapter meeting, come out to a conference.
I love that it's get involved, not do these online courses, do this, do whatever. The value that I see in what you're doing and why I was super excited to have your banner on the background of here and to be at this event was that it is a get involved. It is go meet people, and that's just the quickest way to learn. And so I appreciate all that, Bob. I will link to it in the show notes to this episode of salesmanpodcast.com. And with that, I want to thank you for your time and joining us on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Thanks for coming here all the way from UK.